අපි ලොස් ඇන්ජලිස් වල දවස් දෙකක් ගත කරලා තුන්වෙනි දවසේ අපි යනවා ෆීනික්ස් වලට. ඉතින් ඔයාලා මගේ වීඩියෝ එක දිගටම බලන්න. ඔයාලට ඇමරිකාවේ හුඟක් දෙනෙක් ට්‍රැවල් කරලා නැති තැන් බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් මේ වීඩියෝ එකෙන්.
And once we get just a little bit further, we're going to cross the Los Angeles River.
මේ ඔයාලට පේන්නේ දිගටම කන්ටේනර්ස් පාක් කරලා තියෙනවා.
Yeah, that's fairly typical to get a little bit of morning haze and fog there in the LA metro area because the whole place is situated essentially in a bowl and surrounded by mountains. And right now we have a gap in the mountains in front of us that's going to have us leaving LA metro. And so on the left side you have the San Gorgonio Mountains. The tallest peak is hidden out of view on the left. It has the same name. San Gorgonio Mountain is the tallest peak. The whole chain is called the San Bernardino Mountains, named for a city and county along the border with Nevada. And those are the mountains where Yosemite National Park is. So we'll go play in the Sierra Nevada later next week. After we leave Vegas, we'll go in for Yosemite National Park. And you'll see the giant mountain chain there. And then in between the two mountains is the Central Valley, which is the farmland. Okay, so Sierra Nevada on the east, Central Valley farmland in the middle of California, then the coastal range on the coast, on the west side. Here we've got this outlet mall, which segues into an Indian casino, which is the tall tower on the left. It's a hotel casino run by a local tribe, the Agua Calientes band of the Cahuilla people. And they are one of the major players in the economy of Palm Springs as well. Casinos, depending on where you live, many of your nations may have casinos all over the place, so it's not really that big a deal. Here in the United States, it is a bit of a bigger deal because many states have outlawed. You are okay to open casinos because the federal government hasn't said no. At that point, now that the cat's out of the bag, the federal government did intervene to establish a gaming commission and a board and put some rules and regulations on it, but otherwise not stop it.
දැන් අපි පහු කරන්නේ සැන් ජෝර්ජිනෝ කියන වින් ෆාම් එක. මේ පළාත හඳුන්වන්නේ one of the windiest place in the US කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ වැඩිපුරම හුලං තියෙන ප්‍රදේශයක් කියලා හඳුන්වන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ වින්ඩ් ටර්බයින්ස් වලින් කරන්නේ ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි ජෙනරේට් කරලා අවට තියෙන නගරවලට ඉලෙක්ට්‍රිසිටි සප්ලයි කරනවා.
San Gorgonio Pass. Wind farms have been here since the 1980s. I remember doing road trips as a kid out to California, and I always thought it was really cool to see all these big windmills. Back then, they were more of the variety of the ones on the right side that aren't working right now, like the 1 o'clock, but even smaller than that. Whereas the ones on our direct right, kind of over our shoulder, the big ones, which are cranking, those are more of the, especially when the weather gets a little bit nicer. So here in a few minutes, we will be parking along one of the major roads that run through the center of their commercial district. One of the things that is a noteworthy attraction was there's a photo of it on my animated map I just sent while we were driving for day 3. This is a big statue of Marilyn Monroe. It's called Forever Marilyn, and she's huge. I mean, she's like the size of these palm trees in height. Yeah, because it kind of harkens back to that mid-century 1950s. But Palm Springs wanted it back, and so eventually they brought it back here in it was about 2019, 2020. And there was still a lot of public debate on, is this appropriate? Should we have this? Do we like this? And there was some vigorous discussion, and eventually it landed on, yes, we're keeping her. So they found a permanent place in the park for her, which is right near the art museum, which is appropriate too. So if you're into Marilyn Monroe or just weird, funny statues, you can go over and have a look at her while we're here. There are some public restrooms in the park right next to Marilyn.
අපි වින් ෆාම් පහු කරගෙන ඇවිල්ලා පාම් ස්ට්‍රින්ග්ස් කියන මේ ටවුන් එකේ නැවැත්තුවා. මේ ටවුන් එක රෙසෝට් ටවුන් එකක්. මෙහි ටුවරිස්ලා හැම හුඟක් එන, ඒ වගේම සෙලිබ්‍රිටිස්ලාගේ හොලිඩේ හෝම්ස් තියෙන ටවුන් එකක්. ඉතින් හුඟක් ප්‍රසිද්ධ කඩාෂියන්ලටත් මේ ටවුන් එකේ ගියක් තියනවා කියලා කියනවා. මේ පාක් එකේ ප්‍රසිද්ධ ඇක්ට්‍රස් කෙනෙක් වෙච්ච මෙර්ලින් මන්රෝගේ ලොකු ස්ටැචු එකක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි ඔක්කොමලා එතන ඉඳන් ෆොටෝස් ගත්තා. මම ඔයාලට පෙන්නන්න මේ ටවුන් එක කොයි වගේද කියලා. මේ ටවුන් එක ඇත්තටම ලස්සනයි. ගොඩක් ෂොප්ස්, රෙස්ටුරන්ට් එහෙම තියෙනවා. මේ දිගටම ඕගලන්ට පේන්නේ රට ඉඳිගස්. අපි දැන් නැවැත්තුවා ලන්ච් වලට. අපි කට්ටිය ගියා මෙක්සිකන් රෙස්ටුරන්ට් එකකට මෙක්සිකන් ෆුඩ් ගන්න කියලා. මම ඕඩර් කළා ෆිෂ් ටාකෝ එකකුයි ප්‍රෝන්ස් සැලඩ් එකකුයි. ඉතින් එච්චරම රහයි කියලා මට නම් කියන්න බෑ.
Then I'll get back into the optionals for all of you in the back.
කොලරාඩෝ රිවර් එක පහු කරගෙන යන්න හදන්නේ.
Mighty Colorado. Yeah. Well done, Mike. Slowing down so you get the view. No blocking my truck. There we go. Off to the right, that'll eventually go to the Gulf of California down in Mexico. Off to the left, that'll eventually go up to the Hoover Dam and the Grand Canyon beyond that. So we'll see this river a few more times before we go. But that is your official entry into Arizona. Woohoo! It's a whole new place. If you're ever having a nap and you see the flag change, you're in a whole new place. All right. Yes, as a native son of the Grand Canyon State, welcome to Arizona. Up ahead, we will be doing a bit of an up and down to go through those mountains right in front of us. It won't be too dramatic, but it will be a little bit more than we've seen today, as most of our journey has been and will be flat. So just a heads up, we're going to go in there, and you'll start to see some of our famous desert landscaping, specifically in the form of our saguaro cactus, which you'll see shortly. As for the flag I just waved at you, there you go. It's on the TV screen. So when you see that, you know you're in Arizona. That field of blue at the bottom matches the federal flag. The star in the middle is copper, because we are the leading producer of copper in the country, always have been, probably always will be. About 2/3 of the nation's copper comes from Arizona. And also the star is just a symbol of statehood. So like our federal flag has 50 stars for 50 states. You have 13 bands of the red and yellow, which pay tribute to the original 13 states. It also looks a bit like a setting sun of the west. And the red and the yellow are also the colors of the Spanish Empire that was colonizing out here first. So it's a little nod to our founding fathers that got here before the American movement out west. There you go. A little bit on Arizona. We'll do a little on the Nevada and California flags when we come back. Just a little geeky thing I like to do. Okay, team in the back, I'm coming for you. Let's have your orders ready. Let's see what you all want to do. Which is not always the case. You can see on the right side here, there's a couple that kind of look like a bundle of dead sticks, but then there's one that are like bright greens that got all the leaves. So that's a good sign. If they don't have the leaves, they're still perfectly healthy. They're alive. They just are kind of dormant and just conserving energy. When they get a good rainstorm and have a bit of extra energy to play with, then they'll quickly put out some leaves and maybe flowers. So it's neat to see them greened up, because you don't often. But right now it's kind of a good batch. Alright, it's called Sonora. So you might also hear Sonoran style things like art or food. Mexican food differs by states, much like we have different cuisines, or Italy would have different cuisines based on which region of the country. So Sonoran is a specific type that's very popular here in Arizona because we touch them. But this is one of a handful of American deserts. It is our biggest and hottest, and it does cover the southern bits of Arizona, New Mexico, some of the state of Sonora in Mexico, and also a little bit of California as well. And as you can see, there's plenty of life out there. So as it is a desert, by definition, it does not get a lot of rainfall, but it certainly gets enough to sustain this ecosystem that you see, which is, by some desert standards, pretty lush. So when we drive in and out of Las Vegas, it will look totally different. Another desert, but different plants, and it won't be as green, and there won't be as much. So that's a desert that is a little less hospitable. But the thing that tells you you're in the Sonoran Desert are these tall cactus, the saguaros. They only grow here in the Sonoran Desert, so that tells you where you are. Rainfall doesn't happen often, but if it does happen, it's generally late summer in big thunderstorms we call monsoons. And so these can roll in and out in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And you often can see them on the horizon like that. Like where we are, it might be sunny skies, but you look off into the mountains and you're like, oh, dang, there's a big storm over there. But then as it moves, it just drops for 20 minutes and then goes elsewhere. And so we do get some storms throughout the year, but generally it's kind of late July through September is where you often get these storms, and very consistently in the afternoons and early evenings. But they can throw down some lightning and thunder and all the rest. We can also get haboobs. These are something you generally see in the Middle East, because it is an Arabic term. But these are these massive dust storms. And these aren't common, but they're possible. And the fact that they're possible here is striking. But if you see one of these coming, it is. It's like that. It's a wall of dirt. You can see it coming like a blizzard. And then as soon as you hit it, it's just zero visibility. So you need to pull over.
අපි දැන් ෆීනික්ස් වලට ආවා. අද රෑ නවතින්නේ ෆීනික්ස් වල. මම ඔයගලන්ට පෙන්නන්නම් අපේ රූම් ටුවර් එකක්. අපි රෑ වෙලා ෆීනික්ස් ටවුන් එක එක්ස්ප්ලෝර් කරන්න ගියා. මේ පේන්නේ ෆීනික්ස් ටවුන් එක. ඊළඟ දවසේ අපි ෆ්ලැග්ස්ටාෆ් වලට යන්න පිටත් වුණා. අපි ෆීනික්ස් ඉඳන් සෙඩෝන යන අතරේ අපිට හම්බුණා මේ වගේ කැක්ටස් ඩෙසර්ට් එකක්. මෙයා හුඟක් පරණ කැක්ටස්.
elevation up at the top, Grand Canyon does get a lot of snow. This right here is a ski resort that is right behind Flagstaff, where we'll be sleeping the next 2 nights. So when we get to town, you'll see a big mountain right there in the center of town. It's called the San Francisco Peaks, and that is home to one of our ski resorts. Now, is our skiing the caliber of Utah or Colorado? No. But it's still skiing, and you can still do it. And the fact is, you can be down in Phoenix and then drive about 2 hours. You can be skiing in Flagstaff and then turn around and come back. So it's a nice escape if you want to go play in the snow, but not. So, anyhow, among all of the 48 states that touch, Arizona was the last one to join the team. So we were state 48. And they started bringing water from the same river through the same canals to the same fields, and thus resurrected that area as a population center. And so still today, like, we've crisscrossed several canals. Copper's a good guess. Not that one, though. Something else. You're on the right track, though. Mineral of iron. I heard it. Yes, iron. What you're looking at is rusty dirt, rusty rock. So it seemed like you left your metal tools out in the garden in the rainstorm. The dirt in the soil of the rock here has a bit more of an iron content than is normal. So when that iron comes into contact with the surface, and all the moisture in the air and the rain and the snow and things like that, then oxidizes and turns to that rust color. But up ahead now, you're going to start seeing some of the big cliffs coming in. Yeah. This is just warming up, y'all. This is a bit of a preview to Grand Canyon, way. Because the rock layers you're looking at are going to be very, very similar to what you see at Grand Canyon. Because they are sedimentary rock, sandstones, limestones, shale, mudstone, things of that nature, that were created back when this was underwater. This was an inland sea many different times over the eons. And as water would come and go and come and go, nearby mountains and deserts and other things that would blow dirt and sand and runoff would come into this ocean and settle at the bottom. And then over time, with pressure, we'll be through it in just a couple more roundabouts.
අපි දැන් සෙඩෝනා කියන ස්මෝල් ටවුන් එකට ආවා. මේ ටවුන් එකේ ලස්සන කියන්නේ මේ රතු පාට කඳු වලින් වට වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ කඳු වල රතු පාටට හේතුව මේ පස්වල ගොඩක් අයන් තියනවලු. ඒ අයන් ඔක්සිඩයිස් වෙලා තමයි මේ රතු පාටක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ.
Beautiful scenery with the different eroded shapes of the sedimentary rock. So Grand Canyon being a great example. You'll see that tomorrow. If you were to come back to the neighborhood and visit again, you got Bryce Canyon National Park up in Utah, Zion National Park, Arches, Canyonlands, Lake Powell, Monument Valley. These are all different landscapes that are all similar yet different, and they're all on the Colorado Plateau, and all have these red rock formations, which are carved out in different ways, at different times, and different processes, but kind of variations on a theme. Seeing as this is what I grew up with, I love the red rock scenery. This desert stuff, this is my jam. So, for my money, I think the Arizona-Utah border is some of the best scenery that we have in the country, between all those national parks I just named you. The grandest of them all, Big Canyon, we'll see that tomorrow. Pretty warm by many people's considerations, but nowhere near as. But in the wintertime, you could and can and do get snow up here. And so originally you did have a few tribes of American Indians, like the Yavapai and the Apache, that would live here, but they would be relocated onto reservation land by the 1870s when you started to get pioneers and settlers coming in here to eke out a living. And initially they were trying cattle, which doable, but not easy. As you can see, this isn't great grazing land. So they started to shift once they discovered the Oak Creek was a bit of a water source that's predictable, and started to grow fruit orchards. Started to have a bit more success with that. Peach and apples specifically. But by 1902, it had attracted enough settlers to have a post office. Once you have a post office, you're a real town with a real name and everything. So one of the ringleaders of the town, a man with a rather unfortunate name of Schnebly, he was determined to name the town after himself. So he kept submitting proposals to the post office with things like Schnebly Station, and the postal service just didn't really care for that, so they kept denying his requests for various reasons. And finally, his friends in town convinced him that he should name the town after his wife, Sedona. It was a really pretty name, and everybody liked her. She's a bit humble. She didn't really like all the fuss of having the whole place named after her, but finally she gave in, and she would become the namesake. So Sedona Schnebly. That's who we're named after. If you look on the right side, you can see a church popping out of the rock over there. Okay, it's like directed to the right, about 3 o'clock. It's kind of a tall, skinny building. You see a cross, bit of kind of some stone. It's built right out of the rock as a foundation, and that's called the Chapel of the Holy Cross. That was built back in the 1950s. It's one of the more interesting architectural landmarks around here. You'll see it on postcards and books and souvenirs back in town as well. Economy very quickly to cash in on the interest from all these tourists coming in to spend money. So Hollywood's not so much of a thing anymore, but it definitely gave the boost to jumpstart the local tourism economy. We'll have some Western enthusiasts who'll come out here to specifically see locations from old films they liked. But in the 1980s, there was what a roadrunner would look like in the roundabout here on the left. They don't necessarily come in the blue splotches like that, but kind of fun. Yeah, there's like a little blip on his nose. That's Woodstock the bird just sitting on. can see it's like its head, and like little stomach, and then 2 feet. Snoopy. Yeah, if you can't see it, check out the animated map I sent this morning. I have a picture of Snoopy Rock. You'll be like, oh, clearly, that's exactly what that is. Left side, these are some restaurants and stores you can walk to, like Cold Stone Creamery. They do like, kind of mix-ins with the ice cream. There are some spots here that sell and do tastings of local Arizona wine, if that's of interest. It's not bad. I mean, it's not going to win awards in France or Napa Valley, but it's.
අපි දැන් සෙඩෝන ටවුන් එකේ නැවැත්තුවා ලන්ච් ගන්න. අපි හිතුවා ආයිමත් මෙක්සිකන් ෆුඩ් try කරන්න ඕනි කියලා. අපිට හම්බුණා ඔතෙන්ටික් මෙක්සිකන් රෙස්ටුරන්ට් එකක්. අපි ඕඩර් කළා කුසඩෙලා. මේක රොටියක් වගේ එකක්. ඒකේ මැද්දට චීස්, ඒ වගේම මීට් ඒවා මේවා දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක එන්නේ සල්සා එකක් එක්ක. මේ සෙඩෝන ටවුන් එකට ආවම ඕගලන්ට පුළුවන් පින්ක් ජීප් ටුවර්ස් යන්න. ඒ ටුවර්ස් යනවා මේ රොක්ස් ළඟටම. ඒත් එක්කම බම්පි රයිඩ්ස් උත් තියෙනවා. මේ පේන්නේ මම කියපු පින්ක් ජීප් රයිඩ්ස්. මං ආව සුවනියා ෂොප් එකකට. ඒකේ තියෙනවා රෙඩ් ඉන්ඩියන් අයගේ ස්ටැචුස්. ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි ඇමරිකාවේ ආදිවාසීන්. ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ සෙඩෝන කිට්ටුව ප්‍රදේශයක ජීවත් වෙනවලු. අපි දැන් සෙඩෝනා වල ටික වෙලාවක් ගත කරලා ඊළඟට යනවා ෆ්ලැග්ස්ටාෆ් වලට.
Population center of northern Arizona. It's nestled right there at the base of the San Francisco peaks. You'll see Beacon into view here in the left in a moment. Yeah, the highest peak that we have in Arizona is Mount Humphreys, which is right there in the San Francisco peaks. It's 12,600 feet, about 3,800 meters. And these are the mountains we ski on. One of the mountains we ski on that I showed you those photos earlier. There you go, see the mountains on the left. So kind of a weird name, right? Flagstaff. Why would that be the case? There's the mountains on the left side. Yeah, so it's not named after a person, but rather a literal flagstaff. In 1876, there was an army unit from Massachusetts, from Boston. They were passing through. In 1876 was our centennial And it just so happened to be the 4th of July. So it's America's birthday. So it was our 100th birthday, and these Army guys wanted to have a party to celebrate. So they cut down one of these ponderosa pines, fashioned a flag staff, ran the Stars and Stripes up there, and then had that be the centerpiece of this festivities. And there were some rugged pioneers and lumberjacks and a couple cattle people out here, so they attended the party too. And within the next year or so, when they had enough people to form a community and start, drawing up some laws in the settlement, the one thing that stood out in everybody's mind was that magnificent flag staff that the Army had put up for that 4th of July party. So that became the name. Kind of stuck with that ever since. It would start initially as a lumber location. As you can see, we're surrounded by ponderosa pines, largest stand in the country. Also would establish itself as a bit of a cattle station. And then when the railroad arrived, it would be a big deal, as it would be the largest center of trade on this particular rail line between Albuquerque, New Mexico, and California. And so then started to boom as a bit of a train depot and a shipping location for this and that. They would build an observatory in the mountains, which is still there. It's just on the outskirts of Flagstaff. It's called Lowell Observatory. It's been there since 1894, and it is an attraction. So if you're really into the stars and astronomy, either tonight or tomorrow, you could get a taxi or Uber over to the observatory, pay a small fee. It's a big astronomy museum. You can also go peer through the historic telescope at whatever they happen to be pointing at. And then usually they have several modern telescopes set up as well. And they'll have various astronomers there to talk to you and be like, hey, look at this, it's pointed at this nebula, or now we're looking at Saturn, or what have you. So if you're really into the stars and such. One reason for that is this is a very dark sky environment. We're at elevation, not a lot of light pollution, so it makes for great stargazing. In that particular observatory, which is just there outside of Flagstaff, is where Pluto was discovered back in 1930. Poor little Pluto. Used to be a planet when I was growing up. Not anymore. Sad. Now it's just a dwarf planet. Yeah, a cartoon dog. In the same mountains, there's also a telescope for the U.S. Naval Observatory, and they were the first ones to discover Pluto's moon back in 1955.
අදර අපි ෆ්ලැග්ස්ටාෆ් වල නවතින්නේ. මේ තමයි අපි නවතින හොටෙල් එක. මම ඔයගලන්ට පෙන්නන්නම් රූම් ටුවර් එකක්. ඔයාලා මගේ වීඩියෝ එක බලුවට බොහොම ස්තුතියි. තවත් වීඩියෝ එකකින් ආයෙත් හම්බෙමු. අදට ගිහින් එන්නම්. බයි.